How's it going? Today I have a bunch of things that can often get missed by RVers. Kind of go by the wayside until it's too late and the damage is already done. But the good news is here that oftentimes it really only requires a little bit of knowledge to be able to tackle these things. And the other bonus side is that almost all these things are going to be cheap, free, and pretty easy. So let's get into the list. Because come on, who doesn't like cheap or free? This is going to be good. Now, here's an area that has three big ones. So it has to do with the water. When you're connecting the water to your RV and you're at an RV park, you have no idea what happened to the spigot before you got there. It has been known to happen, and people have done this in the past where they take the sewer hose and they're basically cleaning their sewer hose around the spigot, sticking it right up to it and trying to flush the water out through that. That is a terrible practice. But if that happened there, that's pretty gross, and just connecting your freshwater hose to it, you might have missed the opportunity to be able to clean this area. So what I do usually is I glove up, I'll turn the water on and kind of flush everything and give it a quick clean around there. If I wanted to take it a step further, I would use something like Thieves to be able to clean this area. I wouldn't be using bleach or something like that. But at the very minimum, I like turning on the water, letting it flush out, and kind of rinse that area around there to give me a little bit of peace of mind anyways. The other thing is, if you go to an RV park and you see that the water pressure is not high, I still use my pressure regulator, because you might be checking the pressure, but other people are using water in the RV park. It may not show that it's high, and then when people stop using water, that pressure can rise. Even if the park doesn't show that it has high pressure for the water, we still use a pressure regulator. And the third thing is something that you can test on your own. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you turn on the spigot for the first time, if you were to catch that water and the amount of sediment and rust and things that are kind of in the hydrant and in the pipes that go into your RV, you're going to realize that you always want to have a water filter, even when filling the tanks. And that's today's sponsor, which is the Taste Pure water filter. But this test was really showing. And oftentimes I'll see people filling up their RV without using a water filter before filling up their tanks. Like if you're just going to a station to be able to fill up the tanks, you still want to have a filter on there. So what I did is I turned on the hydrant, collected the water, and you could see the amount of sediment and just stuff that was in there. Then I waited a few days, did the same thing, but used the water filter, and the water was way clearer. And that's really just the stuff that you can see. Inside this water filter, it has a 6-stage filtration that's taken out a lot of the things that you can't even see. So for me, it's just a no-brainer to always use a filter. When I'm in an RV park, hooking up the RV to water, or if I'm filling the tanks, I'm always going to have a filter in line to get rid of all that sediment and stuff in the water that I don't want coming in. And it really couldn't be any easier than this. It's just connecting the water filter to the RV to be able to fill your freshwater tanks. That's like RVing 101, and it really isn't that expensive. You can get one for about 17, 18 bucks. You can get a 2-pack for closer to $15. So I'm going to have a link down in the description. There's really no excuse not to have a water filter for every situation for bringing that water into your RV. So check that link below if you want to see the new and improved Taste Pure water filter by Camco. Thanks for sponsoring this video, and on to our next one. Now, this one's usually not even considered until there's a problem, and it's the rollers underneath the slide. Yes, we could talk about slide maintenance, and that's something that's also overlooked occasionally, but the rollers underneath there, they're basically the unsung heroes for us. In our slide, it's holding all the weight of the slide. The mechanism moves it in and out, but it has to roll on those rollers to go in and out. And so, like everybody else, I always check underneath that slide to make sure that, like, it's some chapstick or maybe a screw that came loose is getting jammed inside of there. You want to make sure that's free of that, but I'll also reach in there and I'll feel each roller occasionally. Make sure that it's not coming apart, make sure that there's not something around it jamming it up to where it's not rolling or functioning the way that it should, and then clearing that debris or whatever's in there. Definitely don't reach in there when the slide is moving, but it's something that I periodically check. Next thing on our list is treating the seals on the slide. You don't want them getting worn down from the sun and then not sealing on the RV, getting brittle and breaking. So I use this 303 protectant on there. It's really easy. Just spray a little bit on, and you take a microfiber towel and wipe it right off. Make sure you wipe it all off. So this only lasts for a little bit, but this is going to come in handy in other areas also. We're not done with this yet, but we need to talk about the power real quick. This honestly might be easier to be lazy about than it is to forget about it, but it's to disconnect the breaker before you disconnect the RV. and make sure that the breaker's off before you plug the RV in, and then turn on the breaker. It's really that simple. It's easy to get lazy about it, and you just come on, the breaker's already on, you plug in the RV, and you go to town. But what's happening inside there is you're getting a little spark, and it's degrading your plug that you're plugging into there, and it's also degrading the inside of the plug. Like this one even has a sign on there basically telling you to turn the breaker off before you plug the RV in and before you unplug it. So that's the proper order. It's going to be better for you, your equipment, and the people that are coming after you to use the same pedestal. And then the next one on top of that is actually taking care of your equipment. So cleaning the terminals on there. So for us, we have this surge protector on there. We have an EMS on board, but you want to make sure that your terminals are clean, and not just these that you're plugging into somebody else's equipment, but the RV plug on the other side of this. You want to take that apart, especially these exterior ones, because they're going to get rained on, they're going to get corrosion in there, and you need to clean them so that they have really good contact on there. So I usually use like a deoxit, and I'll clean both sides of it. So easy to forget when was the last time you cleaned it and if they are looking in good condition. This is looking good. We didn't do it that long ago. I think it was about a month ago, so we're good to go right now. On to the next. This one is the door on the RV. This is like the frog in boiling water. Over time, it gets harder and harder to close, and before you know it, you're just slamming that door to the RV. So rather than slamming it every time, take a step back, make sure that it's adjusted properly, but usually the main thing that you need is to be able to lube it up so that it's not going to be so hard to close every single time. And so what I do is I just use the lube that I have for the slide, and then I'll use it on the door, because usually these are the types of products that aren't going to attract the dirt and the dust and things like that. If you're going to be using it on the slide, you definitely don't want dirt and dust being collected on it. So that's exactly what your door hardware is going to need as well. We have this because we still have one more Schwintek slide, and I know they say not to lube it anymore, but I gotta tell you, I think that's rubbish. Keeping it clean and keeping it lubed up was the only thing that kept us going until we had it replaced. Now, another thing that we can do is we can treat the plastics on the outside of the RV. There's a lot of plastic on the outside of RVs, and it usually breaks down in the sun. And so we can use this on more than just the seals around the slide. We can use it on the plastic to try and make it last a little bit longer. And one area that I think that we can use this is we can use it on the vent covers or the vents themselves. That's a plastic that you can treat with this to give it a UV protection for a while. You could even use this on the plumbing vents up there that are plastic. Yes, they say they're UV treated, but you're gonna see those things get brittle in the sun over time. When I was a contractor and we had to do a final on the house, you always had to paint any kind of PVC or plastic on the outside. It could not go uncoated so that it was protected from the sun. So that brings up the idea of things like the plumbing vents. Should we paint those? Don't paint the roof, but to protect it UV-wise from the sun and make it last a little bit longer rather than waiting for it to get brittle and you bump it and then it falls apart and you got to replace it. Might be a fun little experiment, but the plastic on the outside of the RV definitely gets brittle over time. Now, while we're talking about the RV roof, we could also talk about the AC maintenance. That's something that will go for years before we actually clean the coils on those things. That's something that is not a bad idea to do once a year. Doing that maintenance is just going to make your AC cool even better. It's already hard to try and cool these in extreme heat, but why not give yourself a fighting chance with cleaning those coils on the AC? I'll put a link down in the description to some of these maintenance things. So if you're curious about how to do the maintenance on the AC, there'll be a link down in the first comment and down in the description. But I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. Also, what is something that you think kind of goes unnoticed by RVers or kind of forgotten or missed by RVers? Leave that down in the comments. I'd really love to hear from you. But I think that's going to do it for today, our short list of things that RVers miss. So as always, if we don't see you on the road, hopefully we will. See you next video. Take care.